Hello and welcome to the DropGoal Podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by none other than the Warrington Wolves assistant coach, Andrew Henderson. Hello.
Hey Stephen, how are you? Nice being on your show, mate.
Yeah, no worries. So today, we're just going to be doing a few questions, and hopefully you can give us your best answer. So let's get straight into it. Um,
Yeah, no worries.
the first question, which of course everyone wants to know, is how are Warrington coping throughout the pandemic, and what is being done to make sure players are staying fit and healthy?
Yeah, well, obviously, we're dealing with it as best we can. Obviously, it is a difficult situation for us to
Yeah,
be in, and it is for every club. Every club's obviously in it, and we are very limited in terms of, the access that we have. So, we are putting, I guess, a lot of trust in the playing group now to carry out the programs that we've put in place for them. So, the reality is the head of performance, Adi Gardner, and obviously the head coach Steve Price,
yeah,
have obviously they're checking in with the players regularly. Obviously, they've got obviously programs that have been designed for them individually to adhere to during this period. And ultimately, it is challenging for the players because they don't have access to facilities, and
yeah,
they're going to have to try and do the best they can with some of the equipment that they may have at home, or things like that. So
yeah,
it is
definitely.
a challenge, but you know what? That's sport, isn't it? And sport and
Yeah,
coaching and all sorts. It's always challenging, and this is just a different challenge that we're being faced with, and we're trying to do our best to deal with it and overcome it. But ultimately, we have said to the players and we have stressed to the players that their health is paramount. So,
yeah,
if they can't, go out for that run, or they can't, for whatever reasons, we do know there's a couple of players whose partners are pregnant at the moment, so
yeah,
they really need
definitely.
to stay inside.
Hmm.
And yeah, it is. It's just the health is paramount. The health and well-being of the player is paramount first and foremost. So
Yeah,
if they can't carry out some of the training regime at present, then so be it. That's just the way it is.
yeah,
But obviously we're encouraging the players to try and stay fit, stay healthy, eat well, train well, sleep well as best they can during this process, and hopefully we'll be back together training in small groups sooner rather than later, and then
yeah,
hopefully we'll be back to full swing in the near future. But at the moment, we've just got to continue to keep ticking over and just wait till that call comes from the government where things maybe get relaxed, and then obviously we get the full green light to go ahead again. So it is
yeah.
difficult, Stephen, to be honest.
Hmm.
And like I said, there has been a lot of trust now put in the playing group, and hopefully those players will do their best to stay in shape and be
Yeah,
ready for when we do come back together.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so another one, which is actually from my granddad, is quite similar. So
Mm-hmm.
it might not take long to answer, but he says, "Do you feel enough is being done financially to support clubs during the outbreak?"
Uh, well, I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is if we look at the whole situation throughout the country, it's hard to generate any money, isn't it? Because you've
Mhm.
got a lot of businesses can't operate now because the workers aren't there to work because
Yeah.
they're at home self-isolating. So companies aren't made or businesses aren't making money. So how can they then put money back into things when they're
Exactly.
not generating the income? So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a vicious circle, isn't it, at the
Mhm.
moment? So the workers aren't working to get money, and the workers aren't working to make money for the
Yeah.
foundations or the businesses or the organisations, and so it's very, very difficult. I think what
Yeah.
the the, the governing body has done has been excellent in terms of
Yeah.
their strategy on sticking to the government guidelines for as long
Yeah.
as they did.
Yeah.
I think it's proven fruitful for us as a game because
Yeah.
I think a lot of sports decided to pull ranks early. We
Yeah.
stayed playing and staying you know, active as much as we could until the government guidelines came in and said, right, that is it. Everybody must be now at home
Yeah.
and et cetera, et cetera. What that has done is now put us in a position as a game to be able to seek funding from the government. So I thought it was a really smart play there
Yeah.
from Ralph Rimmer and his co at the Rugby Football League. I think that's put us in as good a position as we can be in. At the end of the day, all clubs are going to suffer now
100%.
because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we're used to having day to day. I mean, you look at the Halliwell Jones, and
Yeah.
that's not just being used for us from a sporting point of view in terms of game day and revenue and whatnot. A lot of businesses use that
Yeah.
facility. They hire out the boxes, they hire out the function rooms.
Mm.
So the Halliwell Jones is generating income every day, and all of a sudden that
Yeah.
income's not coming in.
Yeah. Sorry, we've lost
well.
you.
So,
Yeah.
so that means it does make it's a difficult position for the club. But I think the club itself has done extremely well in terms of managing
100%, yeah.
How things are going. I know that for a fact, and obviously I think the governing body has done a great job. To say, are we getting enough support? It's a tough one to really say. I think we're getting as good as support as we can at this moment in time with what is available and what is out there. And I know there'll be some clubs will be in a lot more difficult position than we are. You know what I mean? And I do certainly feel for those guys and those clubs and those players. But it is. It's something that is unprecedented, isn't it? We've not expected this to happen. We've not seen this coming. It's just hit us, hasn't it, out of nowhere? And now we're trying to do our best to manage that, deal with that, but also coming up with contingency plans, for the what ifs. What if we are back up and running in a month? What if we're not back up running for 3 months? So I know that the Carl Fitzpatrick and the powers that be behind the club and that are coming up with all those different plans and contingencies for the what ifs, and obviously we're
definitely.
Supporting the governing body and the Super League in their quest to try and guarantee funds and try and get funding to help keep the clubs alive and afloat.
Yeah, 100%. We'll move away from coronavirus now. I bet you're sick of hearing about it. There's a question from my uncle. He asks, what are your thoughts on Super League's current take on the expansion?
Well, listen, I'll be honest, I'm all for expansion. I think, personally, I think if we're going to grow the game and we're going to become bigger and better, then we have to have that idea of expansion. And now, for me, I mean, that was one thing. I remember I spoke about this a few years ago. I got asked a similar question, and at that time, it was a case of, well, for me, the game has to make a decision on what it wants to be. Does it want to just accept that it really is a minority sport in the UK that is fixed, basically in Yorkshire, Lancashire, Cumbria, along that M62 corridor, and do we just try and become the best version that we can and put all our effort and resource into just becoming the best that we can, knowing that we're limited in terms of how big we can grow, but we're going to say that this is what our game is. We accept that. We accept that we are limited. We are just a northern along the M62 corridor, and we're just going to become the maybe reinvent ourselves, but become the best that we possibly can there, and throw everything into that. Or do we make the decision that actually, we do want to see the game continue to grow? Because if we do just put ourselves in that M62 corridor, then we are limited to our growth potential. But it's not to say we can't still have, some say in the sporting world and still have a place and still offer a great experience and great opportunity. However, if we've got high hopes and expectations that we want the game to grow and evolve and become bigger and better, then we have to accept that expansion is going to allow us to do that by tapping into different cities, different markets, etc., etc. I'm a big fan of the spider's web theory, where you become strong in the middle. So you think about when a spider's web, creates its web, it starts in the middle, doesn't it, and it starts to branch out. So for me, that would be my way of doing things. You expand. We know we're strong across Yorkshire, Lancashire, M62. Now let's branch into South Yorkshire, then let's branch into the Midlands, then let's start branching down further south, and the same up further north. That would have been my sort of theory on expansion, as opposed to going throwing someone out here. We look in the past, we've thrown a team down to the bottom of Wales, we've thrown a team up the Gateshead originally, and we threw a team over in Paris, and and it's really, really hard when you're casting that net so far and you haven't got the strength from within, if that makes sense. And a lot of the reason a lot of these expansion clubs fail is because there's no rugby league people on the ground in those areas. So it's a case of, okay, we want to get the game exposed in another area of the world or another part of even a different country or a different part of the UK. And let's go and put a load of money in and set a professional club up there. But then there's no rugby league people on the ground there. There's no amateur competition there. There's no one playing the game. So there's nobody really supporting the game. And yes, you may get some decent crowds to start with because it's a novelty, but the reality is the longevity of it does not stay. Whereas that, you look at the Catalan model. Why has Catalan worked? Well, because rugby league was played in the south of France. There was an amateur game already up and running junior leagues down there playing the game. It's played in the schools. It's got a semi-professional league that was up and running there, the Elite One. So now you put the professional team in, and all that underneath, all that foundation is then feeding into that, which then allows that to continue to grow over time. And like you said, they've got rugby league people on the ground there that understand the game, know the game, are involved with the game. And I think if we are going to look to expand to other countries or cities where we haven't got that presence there, we need to get the presence there first. So that would be, so if I was thinking of putting a team down in the, I don't know, say down in Devon where I'm from, you know, well, we need to make sure we've got a strong amateur competition up and running there to start with. We need to look at getting the game played in the schools first. So there is actually, the game has got a presence there. And then you might actually put a team in like League One as a semi-professional team to start building, and you just get a little bit more of that foundation in place before then you make the big professional Super League club in there. Does that make sense? Or
it
does. That's how I view it.
Yeah,
how
definitely.
You grow the game and grow the expansion of the game. Yeah. I do understand part of the reason why the Toronto thing has come in, and I know that's more of a commercial perspective, thinking we can break into a new market there, you know what I mean, and get some more TV to generate more funds for the game. So I can understand that's a slightly different one, but that's just my take on expansion. And I do believe in expansion. I do believe as a game, the game is a great game. It's easy to understand. It's easy to play. You can now, and the one thing our sport does is it does engage everybody. We have, all sorts of forms of the game now. Touch rugby, tag rugby, you've got rugby for learning disabilities, rugby for physical disabilities, wheelchair rugby. We've got rugby for women, for girls, for men. We've got it across the board. It's accessible, and it engages every walk of life. So I do believe that we can take that product of ours, our great product, and put it into different towns and cities that maybe not from traditional rugby league areas, but to do that, we do have to have those foundations put in place first before you then start to put a professional club in place. So that's just my take. But I do believe the potential is there to do that, and I'm a believer in expanding the game to continue to make it grow and get more money and become a better product overall worldwide.
Yeah. Just speaking about expansion again. So obviously, you were ahead at London. Do you? Focusing on your theory, would you say London Broncos was a success, or what do you think?
Well, I mean personally, I know when I left the club, I left it in a good place, and obviously the coaching team there, Danny Ward and co, have really took it on and continue to grow that. I just feel probably London potentially had done, that they were probably a club that was put in place, all those years ago, 40 years ago, and again was just put down there without any kind of foundation put in place. So there's been a lot of resentment over the years towards London that they've had a leg up, they've had a lot of money pumped into them, and they probably have in the early stages, of their existence. I mean, and the reason was just to keep it going because they didn't have the foundation in place. It's almost like for me, London today is how it should have been 40 years ago. Where
definitely.
Now they've got a good amateur game down there, a lot of amateur clubs up and running now. They've got a lot of kids playing the game now. They are running really strong scholarship and academy programs, so they're giving kids now an opportunity to come through a professional pathway, which is now being very professionally run. They've got a competitive first team as well, and they have got a little bit of support that is slowly growing. The other thing for London, which hasn't helped them, is they've moved around that many times throughout their existence. They've never been able then to have a home or a base to build from, whereas Ealing does feel like a real home for them now. They're in a borough where there isn't a big soccer team in there. It's a borough of 380,000 people, and that was why we made the decision to move there in the first place. They're only up against the rugby union club that are there. So I really believe the foundations there are now there for London to really grow and kick on if they can continue to get the investment on board to make that happen. But I just probably feel that all those things could have been in place years and years ago, which it wouldn't have took 40 years from now to probably get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And they were putting some good things in place even when they were at the stoop. There were some really good things, programs being run there by the staff that were involved with the club then. But then again, they picked up and moved again and went to Barnet, and then it was picked. So they've just never had that sort of stability of calling somewhere home, and that hasn't helped either for their identity. But I'm hoping now that they will stay at Ealing for a long time. Because they've got some really good things going on off the field in terms of their community programs and and their youth structures and all that, which I'm proud to have played a part in making happen. But again, you need all that stuff on the ground if you're going to make your club work. If you don't have it, then it doesn't work.
Exactly, yeah. So speak about London a bit more. This is from my uncle as well. He says, from your time in London, whilst the grassroots game is flourishing, what do you think needs to be done to help further establish the pro game?
Well, like I probably just said there before, staying in one place.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard thing. I mean, because like you said, over the years, I think, if I recall rightly, I think London have had 22 different home grounds in their over their 40-year existence. You know, I mean, so you know, how are you creating a fan base? It's like you're starting to, you know, you're putting yourself in a place there. You start to engage with the local community, as London are doing now with the Ealing community, and you start to have a presence in that area, and you're starting to generate an interest. It's getting in the schools in the local area, and you're doing some great community work, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. But then all of a sudden, you know, in say 2 years' time, they pick up and they go move to the other side of London, and then it's like, well, all that good work you've done, and that's for me has been the problem for the club in the past, is they just haven't spent long enough in one spot to really build a club, if that makes sense. They've just been very nomadic in terms of their existence, and I don't think that's helped. So I think, you know, personally, like you said there, the grassroots game's flourishing. There's a lot of people enjoying rugby league down in the capital and in the south of England and support rugby league. But the key for me is that they have to stay, well, where they are now in Ealing. They need to stay there long term now for the future, and that becomes, they can create an identity from there, and they create a home, and people will feel connected to that club because of the presence they have and have had then for a long time in that area.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So we'll move on to your playing career. Obviously, you had quite a good playing career. Your best probably at Castleford. My dad asks, who is like your biggest player rival, and who is like your favourite player to play with?
My biggest player rival would have been my brother.
Yeah.
So when he played in the hook and roll. So when he was at Bradford and I was at Castleford, that would have been my biggest playing rival. We obviously always wanted to get one over on each other. So I'd have to say Ian was my biggest rival as such on the field. What was your other question there, Stephen?
Who is like your favourite player to play with, or just like you know, who you would have liked to play with?
Right, interesting. God, that's a tough question. I've played with some pretty good players over the years. I'll tell you who I really enjoyed playing with, and he was a former Warrington player, was Danny Nutley. I really enjoyed playing with him at Castleford. He was he wasn't the biggest of fellas, mate, but I'll tell you what, he had a high work rate. He was awesome to play with. And I'll tell you another one, Danny Sculthorpe. I really enjoyed playing with Danny Sculthorpe in my time at Castleford. He was like a standoff trapped in a prop spot. You know, some of the skill he could display on a game day was nothing short of sensational, and I really enjoyed playing with him. You know, so I'd say Danny Nutley and Danny Sculthorpe were two players I really enjoyed playing with. But there's so many, mate. There's been so many great players. I've had the privilege of being able to take the field with them and also play games, which, you know, the list could go on.
Okay, that was the last question, but I do just have to ask, what is Lee Braze doing with his beard? You know, what's going on with it?
Just he loves it. He loves it. I mean, I have asked him on a few occasions, mate, when are you getting rid of that beard? He keeps telling me to shut up. He said, you know, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm growing it, and that is it. So I don't know if he wants to. You know, I don't know how long he's going to grow it. I mean, he's at a pretty strong stage at the moment, but I don't know whether he's going to get and become like Merlin or Gandalf and have it right down to the floor. I don't know if he's going to get to that stage, but he's certainly doing his best impression of Tom Hanks, isn't he? In that, what was that Castaway film, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he's doing his best impression of like him, isn't he? So but he thinks he's attractive with it. I think it's ridiculous, but anyway, that's each their own, isn't it? So he says he likes his missus tickling his beard at night as well. It puts him to sleep. So you know what I mean. But anyway, that's who it is.
All right, thanks. That was the last questions. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been good.
No problem.
I hope you stay safe, and hopefully rugby's back on soon.
Me too, Stephen. Me too.
All right.
I'm climbing the walls here. You know, I'm exhausted with the homeschooling and trying to keep these kids entertained, but it's challenging. But hey, do you know what? It's been nice at the same time as well to sort of probably reset, refocus, and not have to worry so much about the daily rigours of what our fast-paced lives are these days. So it has been a nice break, but like you said, I'm ready to get back into it now myself. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Okay. So before we end the podcast, do you have anything to say
Yep.
to everyone who's listening? Like you got anything to say?
To continue to listen to the show and the
Yep.
podcast and enjoying rugby league, and just to everybody who is listening, I do hope you are safe and that your families haven't been affected by this coronavirus. And for those that have been affected by it, we wish you well and condolences if anything serious has happened. But like you said, just do your best to stay safe. It is difficult and challenging, but you know what, we will come through it. And like I said, I can't wait to see. Certainly those Warrington fans back down at the Halliwell Jones, smiling, cheering, and hopefully we'll be back on that field, giving you plenty of things to smile about and cheer about for the rest of the season. So, like I said, that's all I need to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's been good. See ya.
Cool.
Well then, that was our talk with Andrew Henderson. It was great to catch up with him and speak everything about rugby and everything that's going on. Sorry for not uploading episode 3 of the podcast. That is because this was in the works. I hope everyone's staying safe.